to deliver his message. And of course, that stole even the thunder and the enthusiasm from him. And that in a way also demonstrates that maybe some strategic issues may not have put into consideration when they were reading the 10 at 10.
Okay. Well, it has been said that it was a knee-jerk reaction, but Moses Kajwang is going to react to that. But let me come to you, Honorable Mwaura. Two things. One, Kalonzo Musyoka did also mention what Kajwang has mentioned, and this is the fact that they hope that by virtue of the fact that you have crossed over to Jubilee, then you lose the mandate that you had under ODM, and then the reasonable thing to do would be to resign. Will you resign?
First and foremost, I think I want to explain very clearly that there is the interpretation of the law, not just the law itself. And there's a ruling to that effect. Isaac Lenaola was taken, is a judge. Bishop Mutua was taken to court on such assertions. In fact, it was very awkward because somebody went to court saying that Mutemi is not even a member of Wiper Party, as you have said about Kalonzo. And it's very clear. In fact, Lenaola has said, the moment you are nominated by a political party, you cease being a representative of that political party, and you represent special interests. So I'm fully aware of that reality. And going by that ruling, it remains to be seen what needs to be done. Going forward, I have said it very clearly, and I would want to repeat. I mean, let us not make laws that do not work. It is not a first. If you remember, William Ruto was an ODM deputy party leader, but he was already forming URP. I mean, every conceivable political leader in this country has, been able to look at what is supposed to be done at the right political time. Everywhere, So what we need to do is to ensure that good leaders who have the agenda of the people must continue to serve the electorate, must continue to populate our public spaces with ideas that can move this country forward. And let me comment and say about this. When you have a political party, the political ideology is not supposed to be rhetorical. It's not supposed to be symbolic. It's supposed to be practical. And then what you need to do is to pass certain messages of what you are able to do. For example, when it comes to healthcare, are women getting, scans? Are they getting prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal care? Are farmers getting, the various implements they need? Yeah. Are people getting opportunities to showcase their talent?
Okay.
Like if you see like Bahati, and I think Jarvis has commented about it. What actually makes President Kenyatta sell and tick, and many Kenyans will agree with me, is because of that very lack of protocol. The fact that somebody can actually, take him out of his seat, the fact that he can put his hand on his wife, the first lady, the fact that he can mimic the way musicians are singing, that is what sells. And the moment we realize that Kenyans are moved from being this rigid, suit, stoic, straight jacket thing, is when you realize that you are not connecting with the people.
Okay,
and it's about connecting and communication. And I also want to say this, Mike. All of us, Moses and I here are politicians. There is one key factor in any form of mobilization, and the key factor is organization. If you are not organized, you will not be able to mobilize properly. If you are not organized, you will not be able to organize your team properly so that they can, do your job well. And if you are not organized, your votes will also be stolen.
Okay.
So we need to be very clear about that, because we also learn from history.
All right.
You cannot keep on doing
Honorable
the same mistake.
before I move on, I come to somebody else. I still want to understand what your reason for moving is, based on principle. I would imagine that the reason why you are in ODM for that amount of time is because there are certain ideologies, there are certain political, manifesto that you followed and you believed in. So did that change? At what point did it change? What is it? What has it been exchanged for?
Mike, let me tell you. This charade about political ideology, I have walked through that journey. I consider myself to be a center-left politician. It's all a facade. The truth of the matter is...
So are they all political parties the same?
The truth of the matter is you look for a leader and what they stand out for. I came to Parliament to represent special interest groups. What you should be asking me, what have I been able to achieve? Have I been their voice? Yes. Have I presented bills on their behalf? Yes. Have I presented petitions? Yes, in fact, and indeed, the most recent one is about persons with intersex individuals. It has even been taken over by BBC and CNN now. It's become a global news because of these marginalized groups of people. Have I been able to move persons with disabilities forward? Yes, I have taken them for the first time to the National Youth Service, where they were never admitted. I've been able to increase the budgetary allocation from 700 million to 1.8 billion. I've been able to push for further allocations in the education sector for their funding. And I am the leader of the Kenya Disability Parliamentary Association, the first ever caucus of people with disabilities.
Okay.
So that is what counts. That is what counts. When I see, for example, deaf people, Kenyan Sign Language now is in all of the TV stations. That is part of my work through legislation. You see, when I see, IAC officers in various counties who are able to identify children with disabilities and place them in schools, being given 100 million for the first time in funding. That is what speaks.
All right.
So that is my ideology.
All right, Jabas, I can see your...
Well, one thing, Honorable Mwaura is easily a convincing debater. And his place as a policy wonk cannot be argued. Now, that of course is what he's using, and he can easily sway positions here. All right, but of course, tactfully what Honorable Mwaura has avoided is, what exactly is it that has shifted? And of course here, when you asked Honorable Mwaura that having stuck in ODM for that long, and this shift at this moment has been informed by something, beyond the request by the president that he joins the other side, and beyond also the request by his constituents or potential constituents that he moves to the other side if at all he has to work with them. That, of course, takes us to one clear thing about politicians in this country and nearly politicians all over the world, that personal interests and ambition dictate how they move and where they move. And if Honorable Mwaura here were to be sincere with us, he would tell you that he's not moved because of the charm and all the organization that is in the Jubilee Party, but because he wants to be elected to represent the people that he wants now. That's where his sights are trained. And of course, my pleasant imagination would be that the kind of principle, the kind of energy, drive, and ambition that he has exhibited when he was in ODM is the same kind of ambition, drive that he'll exhibit when he's on the other side. But here, this thin line is personal ambition and personal interest and quest. And that is what has driven Honorable Mwaura.
All right, let me come to you, Honorable Moses Kajwang. And, well, how does it, or rather, there's statements being made that ODM and CORD as an organization is quite disorganized in terms of getting things done. First of all, even the 10 at 10 seems to have been a reactionary event, given that there was going to be the Jubilee Party launch. Is that right? Was it reactionary? Was it planned before?
Absolutely incorrect to say that this was reactionary. Is it not a fact that ODM was founded 10 years ago? Mwaura was there 10 years ago,
based on
and
the
on the same day, and Uhuru Kenyatta was there. William Ruto was there. He was part of ODM. They were part of the team that founded ODM as a result of the debate on the new constitution. So the date, the timing was predetermined. You know, if your neighbor decides to do a birthday for the child, on the date your child has been born, it's just a coincidence.
But now, the reason why it looks reactionary is the content of the meeting. When you look at the content of what came out of that, I mean, we had Honorable Peter Kaluma here on Thursday declare and say that there's going to be a ground-shaking announcement made at Mombasa. Do you think there was a ground-shaking? 10
years is a very admirable feat for a political party in this country. Look at President Uhuru Kenyatta's political career. In the first time, his first attempt, he was in KANU. The next attempt, he was in PNU. The next attempt, he was in TNA. And now, he's in Jubilee. 4 political parties in 4 political attempts. Raila Odinga, in contrast, I know earlier on in his political career, he switched parties, but he seems to have stabilized in the last 15 years, and we expect him to go with a stable and predictable coalition in the next 5 years. And there are not many parties that have survived for 10 years with the kind of success that ODM has had. And definitely there was so much to celebrate. Right now, we've got the highest number of members of Parliament, both in Senate and National Assembly, before Jubilee. Previously it was ODM, then TNA, then URP. So now Jubilee can claim to have the highest numbers. But we've got so much to celebrate. When it comes to the presidential contest, in 2007, the disputed elections, it is reported that Raila Odinga got about 4 million votes. In the last elections, which we also challenged, Raila's votes that were declared by IBC had gone to 5-point-something million. So this is a political player and a political machinery that has been gaining traction with every election that comes across. So there was so much to celebrate. Now, was there something earth-shaking that was announced? I think there was, because we have made it clear that as ODM, it is Raila Odinga that we will front to discuss with other partners within the CORD coalition, so that we get a single flag bearer to face Jubilee.
That to me or to many Kenyans might be viewed as obvious that he was going to be the flag bearer for ODM.
Mike, it had not been declared. It had not been declared. There is insinuation, but there is a declaration of that nature. Definitely, the next step will be for us to go to a national delegates conference. And thank God Mwaura is no longer in ODM, because the last NDC, it's Mwaura who started the chaos that invited the men in black. So
we'll give him a chance to respond
good
to
riddance. Now Jubilee can get a taste of Mwaura and how dangerous it can become.
Yes. Just 3 quick things. Of course, Jubilee Party being associated with TNA URP, who had been in government, it had the advantage of being the incumbents. So in terms of organizations, in terms of networking, state operatives, of course their function had to be well organized. So in terms of that issue, I think they had the upper hand. Then on the second thing, on the issue of Honorable Mwaura switching parties, I think it's also a reflection of the Kenyan society. It has been said that all politics is local, and Kenya being a multi-ethnic society where we have the diversity of ethnic communities, when you are going to seek an election mandate from people whom you represent, then you'll have to ask yourself some very logical questions, that in this constituency where I want to stand, what is the ethnic composition of this constituency? What are their political inclination? So I think for Honorable here, I think we may use many words, but the fact is you cannot go against the grain of the voters who have taken a certain stand. As he has said, the voters there seem to have their sympathies with the Jubilee Party. So it is almost automatic. Other than the selfish interest that Java said, it is almost automatic that you'll have to align yourself with the feelings of the voters where you have. Then lastly, on the issue of the 10 at 10 and what really came out, I think this has to be said. There is the dominant role and the very important visibility that was played by Governor Joho. This is a man who has been said answered, chopper to chopper, Prado to Prado, Bahasha to Bahasha. He answered Jubilee on equal terms. And I think Governor Joe going forward will be someone who is very crucial to the ODM, to CORD, and certainly is someone to watch.
Is that just because of financial clout?
Financial clout, and also his, I think he's someone who has been very visible, someone who has the charm.
He has kept the tempo up.
He has kept that tempo.
ODM.
Yes.
Now,
Okay,
Mike,
yes,
to pick up from where my relative has left, one thing is clear, a point that may easily be lost when you look at Mombasa's rally, the 10 at 10. One, is not just a question of Joho's visible financial muscle, but he has also demonstrated over time now his political wit and cementing his position as a very important kingpin or politician in the coastal region. This has not been so much about ODM at 10. Believe you me. This is about Joho positioning himself as a very important politician at this point in time moving forward. And I'll tell you this, while some have even tried to speculate that possibly he may rise to be somebody's running mate, or he may rise to be president, which is a good speculation, but may be very difficult when you look at the arithmetics across the country. But he'll be a very important politician for a very long time. One thing that Joe has done right, and he keeps doing right more than many other politicians, is his personal profiling and branding. He is doing it very well, especially when it comes to coastal politics. And if you look at the speeches that were delivered in Mombasa, Joe's speech was quite rousing, and if you look at King's speech as well, and you see that these are men who are positioning themselves not for the 2017 election, but how to be influential in the elections after 2017. And when they declared clearly that they are going to, to campaign for Raila Odinga in 2017, the same way Raila Odinga campaigned for Mwai Kibaki in 2002, then definitely they are trying to take the mantle, the baton. And possibly another message that maybe have been lost at some who are watching all this or who are there is that a message was passed on to Mzee Raila Odinga that actually now it's time that we take over the mantle of politics. That message was sent, but it was sent in a coded way.
I think, Mike, I need to remind my friend Moses here that if I am the white man with the man in black, when he was contesting, he had his white men in Mombasa. So really, maybe he's a reserve of what remained there, but he's now in white. And also to say that really, we are not in politics for academic purposes. Jarvis. We are there because we want to remain relevant. I don't want to be a statistics that I was there. I mean, you cannot contest with Jubilee in Kisumu. True or not true? I mean, you can't go with Jubilee in Homa Bay. The fact that you have to look at the future. And the future is, if you're a good leader, allow the people to elect you. Remember, Joyce Laboso, I was with her husband, and he was telling me we were together, and they were saying that he said he's going to get his pension in ODM, her pension in ODM. But she had to shift for her to retain her Sotik seat, and I think she's a very strong candidate for the Bomet gubernatorial seat.
So would you then agree with Javas that it's for personal reasons?
No, it's not personal. I mean, when you are forming coalitions, and I think CORD wanted to form one political party. That was the idea of Kalonzo Musyoka. It's just that Jubilee went ahead, you see, and formed one political party. There is no need to say that, KANU is a very old political party, but is it relevant today as much? No, it doesn't. You've got to move with the people. You've got to change. You have to rebrand because you have to form new alliances. And our politics are local. It's true that our politics are tribal in nature. That's not something we would deny. In rural constituency, for example, about 26% are non-Kikuyu voters. They also need to be included. They need someone who also espouses and who carries on board their aspirations, you see? So you have to look at each and every consideration when you're making a move. And remember, we may talk here, but I would want to be in Parliament 2017. I don't want to be somebody there, just a political activist. I'm not in the business of going back to civil society where I came from. So let's say this. Joho and Oparanya, for example, are the deputy party leaders of ODM. But in terms of stature, Joho looks more significant because of the way he's done it himself. It was the same challenge between William Ruto and Mudavadi. They were the deputy party leaders then, you see. So one has to look at how to move forward. In fact, William Ruto is on record as having told one Cyrus Jirongo, ni kujipanga. Kwa hivyo hata mimi najipanga bwana.
Mike, this is a tragedy of this nation. For me, there are two gentlemen I admire in this country. One is the former Chief Justice Mutunga. Mutunga had the option of continuing sitting in office. He had the option of playing around with that crisis on retirement age of judges so that he could stay longer. But the guy decided to do what was right, not what was expedient. Somebody else I admire, even though certain things are conspiring to besmirch him, is the governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. He also comes across as a person who will stand for principles rather than just going for expediency. And somebody else I've admired is Mwaura, because as a young man my age and having achieved what he has achieved, I've always believed that when there is choice between principles and expediency, he would go for principles and not expediency. Unfortunately, this morning he has confirmed that we'll go for the money, not the box. I wish we had the original Mwauras, about 10 of them in this country. This country would be great. The future, the political future of this nation would be bright. But when we young politicians take the decisions, the same decisions that our forefathers took, and those are the decisions that have landed us in this situation that we are in as a nation. So I want to encourage many young people who used to admire Mwaura that don't follow him down the lane of expediency. Because we could talk about legalese, we could talk about what Lenaola has said. But for me, reading the Constitution, and that Constitution is for the people and the ordinary man, Article 103 is very clear to me.
Let me put you on the spot here, Moses, and ask you, now that you mentioned that, and you say that we should be following principles and all that, what are the principles and ideologies for ODM that keep you there and not any other party?
I stay in ODM, and I would support Raila Odinga, whether he was Luo or Ogiek. I would still support him, because to me, he offers me hope that we will be in a position to build a country where everyone matters. It does not matter where you come from. Now, that is a narrative that Jubilee is attempting to run away with.
But all politicians say that.
Yes. Now, let me qualify it. That's a narrative that Jubilee was attempting to run away with. But when we go to the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, the reports they've been doing on ethnic and regional balancing in state corporations and state appointments, we clearly see that there is a trend where two communities are the ones that are getting favored. I would support Raila Odinga and ODM because the short period that they were in power, even though it was called an Usumkate government, a lot of the things that are being launched by the president today were conceived at that time. We are talking standard gauge railway. We are talking Vision 2030. We are talking LAPSET, which Jubilee has failed to implement. We are talking KONZA, which again Jubilee has failed to implement, as if it is punishment to the Kamba community for not supporting Jubilee. We are talking Dongo Kundu in Mombasa. We are talking second container terminal. All these were conceived during the short time that ODM was there. Because I believe that Raila Odinga and the team that he puts together has got a vision and has got the conviction that this country can be great. Unlike Jubilee, I don't see that conviction on the part of Jubilee.
All right, let me come to you, Honorable Mwaura, before we go to the analysts and hear from you. And moving forward, projecting, what is it that we should expect from this new coalition? Saturday was a big event, very colorful, but the nitty-gritties for Kenyans is that I need food on the table. The nitty-gritties for me is that the cost of living has gone high. What is it that you have to tell Kenyans today that's going to be a difference because of Saturday's event?
I think, Mike, starting from the point where Moses is speaking about that people should not follow me, I would want to encourage the young Kenyans who admire me a lot to know that you must make the right move at the right time. And politics is not about risk-seeking. It's risk-taking. And you've got to make sure that you are with the people, because the people ultimately are the ones who make you a leader. And of course, I have a very burning desire from moving from being nominated to being elected. And I think we have very good examples of people. As he rightly said, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Mudavadi, they are the ones who formed ODM. I was with them then, you see. And even people like Anyang' Nyong'o, Cecily Mbarire, Millie Odhiambo, the president himself, Muhammad Chidie, all of them, Moses Wetangula, have been former nominated members of parliament. And I would want to be elected. And let me say that we must be alive to the fact that collective ideology has been tribalized. So that if you are right-wing, you are capitalist, and so you are Kikuyu. And if you are left-wing and you are socialist, you are Luo. And because those are the two tribes that anchor political formations in this country, that's the reality. I speak my mind. The challenge there is, if then you use that as a posture to win political power, rather than really deliver the aspirations of the people. And that, for me, I think it's the ultimate betrayal. What for me I go for is personal character. Personal character. Because when you are consistent in what you do and what you advocate for, not in the political posturing, is what counts. Because even in football, I mean, if you move from team A to team B, you're still a good player, that's why they're looking for you. So when we are talking about matters of the people, I am reminded of the poor women in Gashagi village in Ruiru who have no titles, who have no food. I went to visit them the other day with some few, shopping for the day. They require buildings. Those are the people that are concern me. When I go and visit a little girl, 13-year-old Sharon Mahuno Ndume, who is at Mbondeni there, whose limbs have been chopped off by a moving train, going to school at Kenyatta University Primary School. When I see her, she needs to go back to school. Those are the people that I represent. When I look at the people of Omweki Ward struggling to get water, and when I get an opportunity to speak on their behalf, that's what I ask of. And I asked my CS good friend Eugene Omalo, let's give water to the people. Those are the issues. So political parties may have broad statements of intent, because policies are statements of intent, but they have to be having leaders who can follow them through.
True. And politicians are known for, going round and wording, but in a sentence, what difference should Kenyans expect from the now formed Jubilee?
What difference would be, Mike, surely, what is more, you saw the videos, you saw what has already been achieved. It is a continuation of that achievement. Those priorities in terms of energy, and I think the president has been doing very well in terms of having State House summits on various key issues. The last one was on tourism. We've seen energy. We've seen on agriculture.
Health is coming this week.
So that the legacy, and I think he's very concerned about leaving a legacy of his own achievements.
Okay.
And one of the key achievements, Mike, we must remember, is and will always remain to be uniting Kenyans, because we must move beyond our tribal enclaves. And there's nobody who has a monopoly on uniting Kenyans. There's that lie around that it's only one individual who can unite Kenyans. We are purposeful in uniting ourselves, whether it is to achieve a political, and so be it, but Kenya must have clear ideology. In fact, if you look at the conglomeration of Jubilee and now CORD, now it is now more easy to speak about issues, because we are not talking about certain tribes. Is okay. What does Jubilee represent? Right. What does CORD represent? Okay,
Javas, as a Kenyan, as a political analyst, do you see any difference after the formation of Jubilee Party? Or is it just the same, like to use Raila's words, same monkeys, different forests?
I like how Honorable Mwaura is taking a swipe at his former party and his former party leader.
It's amazing how they change time within overnight, 24 hours.
Yes.
And I have not taken a swipe at anybody. I'm speaking symbolically.
I agree with Mwaura.
I respect Honorable Raila Odinga.
I know. And whatever you did is distinguished. And no politician has done that. Of course, some always start pointing fingers, etc. However, I think on Saturday, truth be told, in a way, it was a demonstrated shouting contest. And of course, that's why they were speaking at each other across, the distance that is Mombasa, Nairobi. What these political parties need to start doing is to have conversations with Kenyans. These conversations now will pick out issues, for instance, the examples that Honorable Mwaura is given, about communities, about villages, about individuals in those villages who actually need to have their lives lifted. That's the kind of conversation that we need to see from ODM and the CORD affiliated parties. The kind of conversation we need to start seeing with Jubilee, the Jubilee Party moving forward. While we can see, of course, on the part of government what they have tried to do and how they spoke to it about the issue of electricity, connectivity, and etc., we need to start seeing how this is transforming ordinary lives. So that, and if that happens, and I like for example, the kind of tempo that was set by, at Kasarani, where much as, of course, it was a bit, sidestepped, but speaking to the issues. If issues will inform the 2017 election, then we can say that our politics in this country is maturing day by day. Because if we start seeing and looking at issues not on name calling, etc., but on how this impact on service delivery is changing lives, and how those lives are becoming better, and how the entire lives of Kenyans is becoming better, then that's the kind of conversation that all these political parties should have. That's the kind of democracy that we need to water.
All right, we need to wind up because of time. Honorable Moses Kajwang, and I'll come to you as we do closing comments. What is it that we should look forward to from ODM and ultimately CORD?
Mike, as we go forward, there'll be more conversations between the CORD principals, but what Kenyans should expect is a super alliance. There are many more people we are talking to so that they can come on board. We have agreed that we will go the route of coalition rather than the route of a single party. And so we are talking to more Kenyans, especially Kenyans who feel excluded from this behemoth called Jubilee. And, you know, just in conclusion, Jubilee, if it is concerned about uniting Kenyans, at least two things they should do. One, the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report needs to be looked at and needs to be implemented. This business of taking titles to the coast as if they are doing the people of coast a favor should not apply. They are not doing the people of coast any favor. People came and took land from the coastals, and it cannot be a favor, it cannot be tokenism. It's a right. It's a right. And all these issues were canvassed in TGRC. Number two, the Restorative Justice Fund that the President talked about more than 1 year ago when he was addressing Parliament needs to be established. We had people killed in this country, 2007, 2008. We have not had any closure. We have not had any process to compensate those who lost property, to bring closure to those who lost loved ones. Those are some of the things that must happen if you want to unite Kenyans. And thirdly, it should be possible for a Kenyan, for a Luo to serve in the police force and be guaranteed that he'll get a promotion. For a member of any community to serve in the energy ministry and not feel like the energy ministry has been delegated or has been handed over to one community in this nation. Those are some of the things that Jubilee should focus on, beside reducing the cost of living. Okay. The price of Sukuma Wiki does not discriminate between Jubilee and CORD supporters.
All right.
It is not about going for a big party.
And I guess in the next interview, what we'll want to hear from you is how is ODM going to do that? Because it's one thing to say they should do this, it's another thing altogether to give us a roadmap. I could very
quickly say that ODM is an opposition party which has got a manifesto. The manifesto lays out what we would have done were we in power.
Or in power. All right,
yes,
closing comments, William. Okay.
Yes, as an analyst, I think I will be very straight to caution that the launch that happened, especially for Jubilee, because it has been government, should be very careful for it not to be like the proverbial African host, whereby you are receiving visitors. So what you do, all your dirty mess, you clean it off from the sitting room, you stuff them in the bedrooms, so you find that the guests will come in, the sitting room is glowing, but yet there are unresolved issues. We have stated the issue of graft is very a serious issue. Issues of land, issues of extrajudicial killings are there. Issues of national cohesion, because when you have a country that has a diverse ethnic composition, then you need to make sure that at least in terms of appointments, in terms of provision of budgeting, then all the communities at least are fairly provided for. So going forward, I think Jubilee should be made accountable to its manifesto. We were told that there will be 5 national stadia built in 5 towns in this country. We've not seen that. There's the issue of the laptops for our school-going children that is yet to be met. So I think going forward, Jubilee ought to stick to its manifesto and ought
although
to
with the laptops they have started distributing after 3-4 years late. But anyway, Honorable Mwaura, closing comments.
I think we need to look at why, for example, the President has had very good friends coming around to see him, with some billionaires, names that are known across the country. We've seen, all of us use Facebook. We've seen Zuckerberg around. There's something that is sticking in Kenya. I mean, we are seeing very huge conferences, including the last one, TICA. President Obama has been here. We must continue to speak good about our country, because that positivity moves the country forward. When Volkswagen starts manufacturing again in Thika, it means jobs are going to be gotten for our young people. When we start seeing people investing, we have had foreign direct investment, billions of shillings. We want to uplift the common man, and we want to have a young, vibrant, energetic leadership. When we see interest rates coming down, is to energize the investment base so that people can actually start having lives of their own and being independent rather than overly relying on the state. And yesterday, I met 2 young ladies, Angela and Middo Cheche. They have something called Changes Soccer Academy. They're young students at the Kenyatta University, one of them, Angela, and they're trying to help communities around Mwihoko, Kawasukari, Wendani to do sports. And those are the things that we need to encourage. When I find a young man called Eric Omondi at Kawendani Youth Friendly Center trying to help young girls there, and he's been a street boy. When I go to Mwihoko 46 and I find people there and they start speaking about there are challenges like the old man Kingangai, who is a freedom fighter. Those are the people that need to be empowered. They need to be given voice through representation in parliament and through leaders who are actually transcend beyond tribe and who, despite local politics, can speak on national issues.
The ground is shifting and shifting very fast. Of course, what Jubilee and its schemers have done, and you go to give it to them, by launching this party, you know, by 2017, you'll not be pointing a finger at URP and TNA and what they promised in last election. You'll be looking at government. And this puts a challenge to CORD that it's all about, and if at all the ground has to shift in its favor, for instance, in 17, it's got to be about ground organizations, it's got to be about how up they are in messaging, it's about to see how they profile, position themselves, etc. In the end, all these should be aimed at changing the lives of Kenyans. And what we want is to see a better Kenya, a more progressive Kenya. Mine is the pleasant imagination too, and hope that the kind of tension that is always there during election times and even after is not something that either side of the divide should entertain.
Right. Unfortunately, we have to wind up right there and call it a day. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the way it is this morning. And just a quick reminder to our viewers, for those of us who are on KTN Home, Life and Style begins at 8 a.m. For those of us who would like to continue with some news updates, and then later on we've got Sports Chat with Robin Toskin. We'll stay right here on KTN News. So KTN Home is going to change to Life and Style at exactly 8 o'clock. But here on KTN News, we've got some news updates coming up for you. Then later on, we've also got Sports Chat. Do stay with us right here on KTN News.